Yes, a challenge, but I'll do my best. Sit, please, please.
No, actually, I just wanted to ask a few questions.
Oh, don't sue. Just wear a hat and never let him cut it again.
Welcome to episode 38 of the Columbo podcast, where neither of us wear hats, so we'll have to sue.
Well, looking at your hair, I think there's no option.
Ian, at least I have some.
That makes no sense.
Well, it does. No one can see it.
That's true. You can lie all you like.
Are you saying you've
At least
got
mine's not ginger.
that old one, Ian, that old one. Just because I'm Scotch.
I hate that word. Unless you're talking about whiskey.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, Gerry. How are you?
Not too bad. And in fact, I'd say I'm very well.
That's good. It's a bit warm in here.
Very warm.
Scottish summer.
Yeah, it's muggy.
It's warm and muggy, and
sticky.
it's torrential rain outside.
Yeah, because of the noise, we have to keep the windows closed as well, which doesn't
make for a pleasant working environment.
Not after 2 large coffees as well.
No.
Anyway, did you enjoy this week's episode?
I did.
So did I.
It's a good one.
I think generally it doesn't get great reviews, but it's an odd episode. I'll say that.
Yeah, the ending's a bit curious, and it's not top tier or second tier, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's great performance by the killer this week.
I thought she was very good.
Very good.
Yep, I thought she was the standout performance of the non-regulars.
Okay. Not Mrs. Brandt.
Phyllis.
Or Brand.
I wasn't overly enamoured with her or her
No.
daughter. But, I mean, they're not
She can
Margaret
faint.
Williams level.
She's yeah, let's not start that. Yeah, it was an enjoyable episode. A bit patchy, and yeah, as you say, curious is it's a good summary of it. It's also there are elements of ambiguity, I think.
Yeah, and it's not the clearest of resolutions.
No, one of these ones that you can talk about, which is what in fact we intend to do.
Yeah, and hopefully it's one that folk will jump in a conversation on when we're finished on the website and Twitter and so on.
Yep, be good to hear other people's
On
thoughts.
Facebook now, actually, as well. I keep forgetting we're on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't use Facebook myself, Ian, much,
Yeah,
so...
we're caught up with 1999. We're now
forget-
in the modern age.
MySpace?
No, we don't have a MySpace.
How come? I thought that was where it's all at. No?
Oh, no, you're thinking of Bebo.
Bebo.
They're not really set up for community pages, so.
Okay. Will we start?
Please, let's get away from MySpace and Bebo anything.
How do we normally start, Ian?
Last week, we should have started by telling folk who we are and what we're doing, and we didn't. We waited till the end of the episode, so a quick refresher, perhaps.
Carry on.
We're in a short 3-episode season, so we're going to do this every week until the end of the season, explaining that you are the world's foremost Columbo expert.
I'm not.
That's what he always says, he's just modest. And I am new to the shows. I'm watching these for the first time each week.
You are.
And forming my opinions afresh, apart from when I'm given heavy hints by our audience on a weekly basis of what to expect. This week there were not many heavy hints, so I was able to enjoy it.
Unmolested.
You may use that word. I was going to say unhindered.
Okay. And just to reiterate, I am not in any way an expert. Ian likes to put me under pressure. I make mistakes every week. I get most crucial match and game and all that sort of stuff mixed up all the time. Can't remember
I've
which
kind of
one.
got a grasp of that one. I think the most dangerous match is the chess one, and the most crucial game is the Robert Culp.
Beats me every time. Anyway, yeah, so that's what we do. We chat through each episode and we try and see it through a new pair of eyes, which is Ian's in 2015.
Yeah. I did a quick count today of how many episodes I think we're going to end up doing.
Okay.
Came to 71.
Oh, intriguing.
Which is also the year Columbo started, so that's quite good.
There we go. Okay, each week we start with a summary from your good self.
We do.
Let's have this week's.
In Old-Fashioned Murder, a museum curator is forced to face the fact that her family cannot sustain the financial pressure of keeping the venue open. She engages a security guard to ostensibly rob the place and claim insurance, but double-crosses him, kills him, then kills her brother when he investigates the commotion. With certainty as to the involvement of a third party, Columbo's investigation makes early progress, but he cannot make the critical breakthrough. Jailing his suspect's niece seems like a desperate move, but the lieutenant is under pressure to close the case when he uncovers a third killing by the same perpetrator. Can he do that without any proof of her involvement, however?
Can he indeed? Thank you for that, Ian. We start in a museum, and we have quite a melancholic score as we see the sign which indicates it's entitled
Lytton Museum.
Lytton Museum,
You
correct.
get the opening hours and so on. It's only open for a couple of hours on a Sunday.
That's all you need.
Yeah, 3 to 5. It's quite late.
Yeah. Is it actually 3 till 5 on a Sunday? It's an odd.
I think it said 3 to 5.
Really?
Was
In
it
fact,
1 to
I would have thought if you're going to open on a Sunday, it's because people are off, it's the weekend, so you open up Saturday, Sunday. How many people go to the Lytton Museum on a Monday at 11 a.m?
Who knows? School groups, maybe?
Could be. But you've only got so many school groups in your area.
Yeah,
that would
no, I don't
attend.
know. Yeah.
I know you don't know. It's a fictional museum in Columbo from 1976.
Yeah.
It was a rhetorical question.
I think there's actually 17 people that go at that time.
Okay.
You cannot disprove it. We move inside. The camera takes us around the exterior of the
Yes.
museum, which I thought looked like a house, to be honest.
Yeah. I think it wasn't a museum in reality.
Yeah.
They used a house.
We move inside where a visitor is asking a security guard about an exhibit, but he doesn't really seem to have a clue about it.
No, it's a battle axe, we come to find out. And he has no clue. Not only does he have no clue, he's not interested in...
No, but to be fair, he's not a tour guide, he's a security guard.
That's
I've
fair
never
enough.
asked a security guard a question about an exhibit in a museum.
No, but he is an employee. He's a representative of the company, and he should certainly be polite.
Well, you would think, yes, he would
was
at least have a
dismissive
bit of
and-
customer service.
Yes, that's it. Because twice in this scene, he flicks away a cigarette butt
Inside on the floor.
inside. I don't think he even puts it away, he just flicks it away.
That's him, he's done.
He's a dirty, manky person.
That's one way to look at it.
He, we come to learn, is a Milton Schaefer. And after the visitor leaves, we see an authoritative and professional-looking woman appear, and she helps him before she herself moves and heads upstairs.
Well, she helps the tourist as well, or the visitor. She points out
Yeah.
that you can collect a tape recorder, which will give you a guide to everything that's in the museum.
Quite forward-thinking for the time, I would have thought.
Yeah, they're quite commonplace now, but I suppose that would be interesting at the time.
Yeah. Her name is Ruth Lytton.
Yes, and we very quickly get the story behind the security guard's presence.
Mm-hmm.
Her niece appears.
Janie.
Yes. Janie Brandt.
Janie Brandt, yes.
And she has hired this security guard who is the brother of her married boyfriend.
Yes, she's having an affair. Or he's having an affair, yes.
Yeah. Yes, and his brother has struggled to hold down a job, shall we say.
He's got gambling problems.
He does.
And I think by the sound of it, there are people... He's got debts. There are people looking for him who would be interested to find out his whereabouts.
That's true, and we hear later that they've actually been to the museum looking for him.
Yes. He had previously been in the army, so he can handle a gun. And he, more importantly, he is cheap.
Well, this is it. Ruth accepts that, although she's not too happy about this guy, that very few folk would do the job on the salary available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'd imagine that, wouldn't you? It's not going to be a massively highly paid job.
No, but the impression given is that it's particularly lowly paid. And we do learn that the museum is struggling financially.
Yes, which is an important plot point.
But before that, Janie tries to talk her aunt into dating somebody.
It's I've got here, it's a sort of loving jibe, isn't it? It's not cruel. I think that Janie would like to see her just live life a little bit better.
Be happy, I think.
happy.
Yeah. I think there's a generally positive relationship between the two at this stage.
Yes.
Or at least there's the impression of a
Yeah.
generally positive relationship.
Which is all the more interesting or confusing when we come to see what happens later.
Well, you have to consider whether Ruth maybe has a deep-seated resentment of Janie.
I don't think she has, but we'll chat about that when we
Okay.
get there. She, for the first time in the episode, is described as old-fashioned by Janie.
Yeah, and it's not meant cruel, but
Oh.
it comes across that way to her.
It does.
Janie leaves.
And a man arrives.
Yes, her Uncle Edward.
Yes, which is Ruth's brother.
Yes, Edward Lytton.
Yes. He enters and he also refers to her as being quite old-fashioned.
And she takes offence more aggressively this time and speaks back to him.
Yeah. Ruth then informs Ed that Janie has been given some time off. She won't be coming back that.
He's querying it because he's not happy about her leaving, and it means he's been left to do an inventory himself.
Yes.
And he
won't hire a secretary. She advises or suggests that perhaps he could have hired a secretary, but he makes it clear at this point that they can't afford a secretary.
Yeah, he's walking a tightrope here between the fact that he wants things done properly and they can't afford to run the place.
Yes. It
in a way that makes sense.
It makes no money, and we understand that he is looking after the books, he's interested in the finances, and Ruth is more interested in the culture of it.
Well, she's the curator, and he's the trustee, so they've got separate responsibilities.
Yeah.
It appears, obviously, it's a family
Sure.
thing that they've inherited along, presumably, with their sister.
Yeah.
And Ruth, I think, is loath to sell it, although the suggestion is they would make, millions of dollars, or at least a couple of $1 million to distribute between them.
Yeah.
She's not interested in that. She likes what she does.
When's Janie coming back?
She isn't.
Did you give her the weekend off?
Edward, she can't spend all of her time here. She'll wind up like me.
The books have to be closed out and the inventory finished by next week. Well, I'll be here till past midnight again for 2 nights.
Hire a secretary.
With what? This museum is a losing concern, and you know it.
Museums are not a money-making proposition.
Oh, please, not that again.
I'm the curator, Edward.
And I am the trustee. Kindly keep in mind that I have to manage all the funds Mother left, and that I have what I consider to be a sacred duty to the family. It's up to me to make a profit.
Why do people always speak of money as sacred?
Maybe because it is. And the way the museum is going, there is no choice. I'll have to kill it.
What did you say?
Oh, now let's not be shocked. And let's not make me the villain. You've known what this inventory would mean. You've been keeping me from it for months. We can't go on pouring money into this place. We'd be several $1 million richer, and all of us, if we just got rid of this silly place finally and sold the contents.
I think we can safely deduce that Ruth is already putting into motion a plan to have Edward at the museum past midnight.
Yes. I think she knew what was on the commercial horizon.
Yeah. I mean, what immediately followed that clip was Edward saying that their other sister would have the casting vote and would vote with him to sell the place.
Yes.
So, obviously, time is now of the essence if Ruth wants to retain her position as curator.
He then also mentions to her that items have been going missing from the inventory.
Yeah.
And as she leaves the room, she turns the light off by habit, leaving him in the dark. Which,
Yeah, and he overreacts.
Yeah.
Quite comically.
Yeah. It's important that we understand that she's in the habit of turning light switches off.
Yeah, it's strange because he's presented as this sort of fellow who is overly serious, takes himself too seriously, takes his business too seriously, but yet he is the one being reasonable.
Yes. I think
It's a bit of a contrast there, I think, in terms of his personality and his decision making.
Yeah, I mean, he's reasonable from a business and a commercial sense, without a doubt, financially. I think that, and we don't want to look too far ahead here, but Ruth, it's not just about the fact that she is, interested in the cultural aspect of it. This is all she has. She's had everything taken away from her in her entire life. She has nothing else. So saying to her, well, there's a couple of £1 million, what's she going to do? This is what she does. She can't go home and enjoy this with her husband or with her children and retire.
She doesn't have that.
She doesn't have that. So I do have a degree of sympathy with regards to her outlook.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. There's almost like 2 types of bad decision. You get the emotionally focused or the emotionally driven bad decision like this one, where she is keeping a losing proposition going because she can't bear to part with it. And then the other type would be the sort of hard-headed bad decision, where you've made a decision and you're sticking to it regardless of the facts, which we've seen in other episodes. So I think it's quite an interesting one where this is not that, where her brother would be the type of person you might expect to make that kind of bad decision. Mm-hmm. But he's offering good counsel, and she is emotionally rejecting it.
Did you recognise Edward Litton?
No.
We've met him before.
Have we?
We've met the actor before.
Where was he?
He was in Double Shock. He played the lawyer Hathaway.
Ah.
Do you remember? He was...
He did Double Shock. Oh, yes, the one that he was meant to be fencing with.
Yes.
Or he was fencing with at the start, yes.
Yep, and in fact, I think at that point he was involved in inventory as well when they were looking through
the estate.
The estate, yes.
Maybe it's just a personal preference.
Could be.
We need a man for inventory. I know who to call.
We get down to the hall, and Ruth tells the security guard, Milton Schaefer, to pick up another butt that he's dropped and then orders him to meet her in the garden. So we get out to the garden.
He assumes he's getting fired.
Yes, and he insists he has not been stealing. So I think that these items have been going missing. Ruth may have suggested
It's
that
a longer burning plan.
Yeah. She knows about his new gambling debts that he's accrued.
People have been, as we mentioned, to the museum looking for him.
But she has an offer, a plan, a suggestion.
A way out.
Yes.
She doesn't really.
No. But what she tells him is that he has to stage a robbery at 2 a.m. that night in order to claim on the insurance. So both parties win. The company, the museum, gains it on the insurance, and she's going to give him $100,000. That's an awful... I would have suggested could have been bought off with an awful lot less than 100,000. I think today, in that same situation, $100,000 would be a sufficient amount to buy off a garden with gambling debts.
Quite possibly, but she maybe wasn't wanting to take that chance of negotiation. She just wanted to kind of say, this is it, you're getting this. So he had no option but to say yeah. She also offers him one more thing.
Oh yeah, very good, Ian. Very good. What is this one more thing?
A passport. And a fake
Just one more
identity.
thing. Yes. But just getting back to that, I mean, you're right, but £100,000 might have been the opposite. If you think...
Sure, it might have been so ridiculously
you think,
generous.
I don't know if it's too good to be true.
Sure.
But yeah, either way.
It's a gamble. Whatever figure she goes for is a gamble one way or another.
Yeah. It pays off. He agrees. So what's going to happen is she is giving him a list of items to steal. Yep.
Yes. Oh, he's also to place a phone call to his brother faking his death.
Yes. See, that is the problem. That he can't just disappear. They will be looking for him. So he's going to fake his death and then apparently escape the country. So he breaks in, he steals the items, he then meets her apparently at some location at 3 a.m, gives her
the
items, she gives him the money and the passport, and they go their separate ways. She gives him just now a $3,000 advance on this.
That's it.
To encourage him.
Yes. Which is perhaps a crucial mistake.
Yes, because he can't hold... Money burns a hole in his pocket, doesn't it?
He doesn't gamble it, though.
He doesn't know. He spends it on shoes and a haircut, and he gets his nails done. We'll come to that.
Yeah.
So, we leave the garden, and it's now night time, and we're at the phone booth.
He's calling his brother.
Putting the plan into action. And we see that his brother is with Janie, the niece.
Yes, not his niece, but...
Yeah, the niece of Ruth.
Yes.
They're getting quite amorous and don't answer the phone.
Because he thinks it might be his wife.
Checking up her... And no, in fact, he says, I think his wife accepts that he does this frequently, so she gives him a warning.
Right.
I'm coming home. Yeah, I don't want you to be here doing anything I shouldn't see.
How the other half live, eh?
Exactly.
He doesn't listen to the message.
No. We hear Schaefer tells him that he's at a phone booth and he's in trouble. He needs him, the brother, to help him out at 9:30.
He doesn't say he's at a phone booth because...
No, he doesn't.
He just says he's in trouble and he needs him to be there by 9:30.
Yeah.
And then they hear the gunshot.
He can't wait more than 20 minutes, he says, yeah, and then we hear... So what he does, he pulls out a gun himself.
Yes.
Schaefer does, and he fires it to pretend that he has been
Yes,
murdered.
this is him faking his death.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tim then drops Janie home and she has a weird conversation with her mother.
Yeah. Her mother seems like a bit of a party animal as well.
Well, it's
a social animal.
Yeah, her mother comes in seeming to be very angry with her.
For not staying out. Or not.
Well, initially for being out and then for not being out. And it's all a little bit confused.
Yeah.
You wonder, is her mother taking sleeping pills or something, is she?
Yeah, but I think it goes a fair way to sort of setting up the attitude and the mentality of her mother, bearing in mind what we come to discover later. She is the type that's quite flighty. She's constantly in this episode referring to how she would never leave a party without a man on her arm.
Well, there's a key setup in this scene where Phyllis, the older woman...
You call her Phyllis, but That's in the credit, or that's in the subtitles, I think, on Netflix.
Yes.
Does she ever get referred to as Phyllis in the episode?
No.
Okay.
I'm sticking with it though, because I like that.
Okay, just so we don't confuse any listeners who
Yeah,
can't work
who's
out.
Phyllis? Yes. Phyllis is Ruth's sister.
Jenny's mother.
Yes. And Phyllis says, there is a man's arm to support any woman who wants one. And Ruth bitterly says, not any woman.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's an important one, because we'll come back
Very
to that.
important. An attitude that I don't think would be acceptable in 2015.
Well, I don't know.
I don't think any woman requires the support of a man's arm, you know.
I don't think anyone requires it, but there's still cultural things that lean towards that. You know, the whole wag phenomenon around professional sports players and stuff like that.
That's true. Gold diggers.
Are they? I wouldn't want to characterise them all with one sweeping statement.
Yes, you would.
We'll move on to the museum.
You call them wags. You didn't even give them their own titles. It's a collective of people who marry footballers. Yeah,
So
they're
the wag phenomenon.
the wag. Yes, and what is it? What is a wag?
Wives and girlfriends.
Yeah, in fact, that might not be an American phrase, so we probably have to clarify that. It's
I
a
think, they
Sun.
have, no, I think they have them.
Do you? But that's a Sun tabloid from the 2006 World Cup.
Yeah, I think it's now a global phenomenon.
Is it? Okay, it's quite reprehensible, really, isn't it? So.
Well, you see, I think it's used in more than one way. So there are this group of folk who are celebrity obsessed, and there are others who just happen to be going out with a professional sports person that get lumped in.
It's also grammatically incorrect as well. It should just be wag. It's apostrophe S. It's wag, not wags. There's not a wives and girlfriends. Girlfriends is just
Girlfriends is-
G. There's no S. So there we go.
No, that's what's upset you about the whole thing.
Yep.
Milton arrives late at night at the museum, but you can see from a light in the highest room that Edward's still there, and this is going to go wrong.
Yes.
Or right, depending on whose perspective you're looking at it from.
True. So he enters and he begins taking the items that he has been given this list of,
Yeah.
including an ornate medallion.
Yeah, well, that's not on his list. You can see him appreciate that that's not one he's meant to take, so he swipes it for himself.
We then see Ruth appear. She turns the lights on and she tells him to walk towards the phone booth. And now he does this without thinking about it.
It's a strange one. She says that the plan's changed. She's got to give him the money and the passport now.
Mm-hmm.
And he obviously wants the money, so I think he's just going along with what she says.
He walks towards the phone in the museum and she shoots him dead.
Yes. Well, I think she shoots him, so he turns round and then she shoots him in the front, which is obviously setting it up for how it would have been if the scenario was as she is about to set it.
Yes.
Edward hears the gunshot. You see him in his study.
And he starts to come down. Ruth takes Schaefer's gun, Milton's gun. Now, why would he carry that gun?
To set off in the phone call. He was firing a gun in the phone call.
Yes, good point. That's it, well spotted. So she takes his gun, and when her brother enters, she shoots him dead as well.
With Schaefer's gun.
Yes.
She then returns Schaefer's gun to his hand. No question is ever asked in this episode about powder burns or anything like that.
No. Also, the fact that we're led to believe that she is such a good shot that from that fair distance, she's able to easily shoot two people dead.
And also you see them just before they're shot. You see both Schaefer and Edward being shot, but you don't see a bullet and you don't see any blood.
No.
They just kind of grab their chests and go down.
Yeah.
She puts her gun in Edward's hand.
Yeah.
Again, there won't be any powder burns or anything like that, but nobody ever seems to check.
That's an inconsistency. If it's an issue, if it's a clue, Columbo will spot it. If not, we ignore it.
Yeah. She then goes outside and punctures Milton's car tyre. So this is setting up the scenario where he phones his brother because his car tyre's punctured.
Yes.
And that's timing the death at 9:30.
Mm-hmm.
And
she removes his suitcase from his car.
Yeah, she's setting up the scene the way she imagines this scenario would have been in her head, but she's forgotten to take the phone off the hook.
Yeah, she's forgotten it first, but she remembers, and I thought that was a nice touch.
Well, it's important that she remembered, but then she follows it straight up with a critical error by turning out the lights on her way past.
Yes, but we've seen that that's been set up for us already in the
It's
earlier
a
scene.
Force of habit.
Mm-hmm.
It's also maybe a strategic thing where she remembers they were off when she arrived.
Mm-hmm.
So she's putting it back the way she found it, but she hasn't thought through the scenario in that way.
When we talk about ignoring things that in other episodes have been picked up on, surely Columbo could have traced the phone call and noticed that it didn't. There wasn't either a phone call made at that time from the museum, and the one that was received didn't come from the museum.
It's never clear to me how much can be traced on these phone calls. Some weeks it seems like you can get... Sometimes it seems that the best detail it gets are places where there's manual logging, so like the guest houses and so on, where they manually log the calls.
Like negative reaction.
But Murder by the Book, I'm sure he got more information without that.
Yeah. Now Jim Ferris was about to place a call direct, and Ken Franklin told him not to place the call. You don't place a call direct. You've obviously never cheated on your wife, he says.
Yeah.
You get the operator to place the call.
So maybe that operator placing it creates a record.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not 100% certain.
We'll quickly talk about the actor who played Milton Schaefer.
This is an interesting one.
Yeah, we've mentioned him last week.
Yep.
Peter S. Feebleman.
If that is indeed his real name.
If that is indeed his name, yeah. He didn't do very much. He has a total of 4 writing credits to his name. Well,
These 2 episodes.
Well, 5. He's got 4 different ones. He's got Columbo and 3 others.
Okay.
Okay, so 2 Columbo, so 5 writing credits in total. But this episode was written by him, apparently.
From a story by
Peter S. Fisher.
Lawrence Vale, I'm sure I read.
Okay, so let's just clear this up. Last week's
Can
episode...
we clear it up?
we can't. We probably can't, no. Last week's episode, Fade Into Murder, was written by Peter S. Feebleman, who is Milton Schaefer, apparently.
He plays Milton Schaefer, yes.
So in this episode, he is a co-writer, and he stars as the victim.
Yeah.
But the episode is also written by Peter S. Fisher, who, as you rightly say, actually used the pseudonym of
Lawrence Vale.
Lawrence Vale.
Which he hasn't used previously when he's been writing for Columbo.
No.
On many occasions.
So we're trying to work out, firstly, the first question is, why would Peter S. Fisher use this pseudonym?
Important question.
For what reason?
There must be a reason.
If anyone can help us with that, get in touch by all usual means. Now, because Peter S. Feebleman has only been involved in sort of 3 or 4 different things, there is a suspicion by some people that maybe he doesn't exist.
Well, he has the same initials and the same first name as Peter S. Fisher.
Yes, we've got Peter S. Fisher, Peter S. Feebleman. And he's quite elusive. He does have his own website. He's a writer and an artist as well, I think. But that could have been easily manipulated. It just seems a little bit odd.
I wonder if anybody out there has thought about this more than us.
I'm sure they have. So if anyone can look into this, look at the Peter S. Fisher, the Peter S. Feebleman,
We'll put a link in the show notes to that site.
the Lawrence Vale.
Do you think there might be a connection?
There might be a connection there. It's interesting.
Well, it's interesting also that this is a museum-based episode, isn't it?
I'll tell you why, yes. So, Lawrence Vale is the pseudonym used by Peter S. Fisher. Now, Lawrence Vale was a Parisian artist and writer back in the 1900s, late 1800s, 1900s as well, who married Peggy Guggenheim, who was an art collector and a museum curator and socialite, just like Ruth was in this episode. She was the daughter of Benjamin Guggenheim, who sank on the Titanic, and the niece of Solomon Guggenheim, who established the world-famous Guggenheim Museum in New York.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking that, and this is just my assumption, that Peter S. Fisher chose the name of Lawrence Vale because of this connection to this theme in the episode.
It sounds plausible.
Mm-hmm. So there we have it. If anyone can help us with the Fisher Feebleman mystery, mystery, then that would be, that'd be really interesting.
Maybe we want to have a wee think about it and think out loud in our comments or on Twitter or Facebook, wherever you want.
Yeah, I'm sure that, a lot of Columbo fans, a lot of our listeners are, part-time and enthusiastic amateur sleuths.
Yeah, everybody loves a mystery.
They do. So help us out with that one, guys, if you can.
Please. We're going to be welcoming our eponymous hero.
Mm-hmm. He arrives in the house of Dr. Tim.
Tim Schaefer.
Yes.
Brother of Milton.
He is
lover of Janie.
Uh-huh. He is listening to the Answer Machine recording.
He's playing it for Columbo.
He has hay fever.
Columbo does.
Yes. Now, you've mentioned in the past when he's got calls and things, does this annoy you in this episode that he's got this little...
I don't think it adds anything. Why would he suddenly have hay fever after 5 years?
The only thing that it adds, there is a reference when Ruth looks after him with this sort of chamomile tea.
Yeah.
They mention that later that she would have been nursing her ex-fiancé. She takes that sort of nursing role, and there's a slight indication that might have been a clue or a suspicion.
Perhaps.
Another cop arrives.
Well, you get a parade of policemen I've written down
Yeah.
here. It's a bit like Commodore, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where you get more and more folk with more and more information, but only one piece each.
Yeah. So what information do we discover?
I don't know, I didn't write that down.
She said, okay, so he's told that Ruth has told them that Schaefer was fired yesterday morning by Edward.
Tim's not surprised about that.
No. But that he is, Edward's still asleep, as he was up late that evening, or last night, doing the inventory.
They're not disturbing him.
No.
He's been left alone.
But Tim admits he was surprised that Schaefer got the job at that place because of his
Well, he's not able
history.
to confess his connection to Janie
No.
because he's married and doesn't want the police to go talking about it or investigating it.
From Tim's home, we go to the Litton home. Columbo is sneezing as Ruth arrives. He's inspecting some figurines and sniffing away and sneezing away. Ruth comes in, and we have a nice little exchange to listen to.
Oh, sorry. Lieutenant Columbo, ma'am, Homicide Department. Forgive me for waking you up. Very nice. Very nice little things you have standing around. Very nice.
Well, thank you, Lieutenant. Are you interested in figurines, or has there been a homicide?
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Yes and no. What I mean is, that's what I'm trying to find out. You know, when I say homicide department, most women, they act a little upset, so I try and calm them with a little chit-chat. I've been doing that for so long that I forgot to notice that you weren't upset. Forgive me for wandering off.
I've disappointed you. My sister won't. You needn't even bother saying homicide. Foul play will do it. She faints.
Oh, I hope not, ma'am. That's the last thing I want.
What do you want, Lieutenant? Perhaps if you told me.
Oh, I've wandered off again, didn't I?
I'm afraid I led you. Won't you sit down?
Thank you very much, ma'am.
It's a nice little scene between them. There's a few of those in the episode.
Very nice dynamic. And she is very to the point, isn't she? She keeps Columbo in a fairly tight rein in this episode, which I think he enjoys himself.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen her have a good dynamic with Columbo in her previous appearance.
Yes.
And this is a bit different, but still works.
It does. Columbo explains to her about or tells her about the Schaefer call and that they're trying to find out where he is. So the body hasn't been discovered as yet.
Yeah. He's still sneezing a lot, and she looks to me like she's disgusted by the sneezing, but that might just be her face. I'm not sure.
Could be.
She gets him a cup of chamomile tea.
Which apparently is the world's best cure for hay fever.
It's a lie.
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it?
It's not. Nothing cures hay fever.
Why do you take all those little tablets then?
It's placebo effect, really, I think.
Janie arrives, and Columbo asks her why she hired Schaefer.
Well, yeah, Ruth says it was Janie that hired Milton,
Yes.
and she explains that she had a small budget and he applied.
She freezes for a moment, so we understand. Columbo understands that.
She's making this up.
Yeah. She says she put an ad in the newspaper.
That's it.
Yeah.
Phyllis shows up.
She does.
Someone says homicide and she faints.
She does. Do
It's
you like
ridiculous.
It's quite a swoon. It's quite a...
It's almost like an arm across the forehead, spin and go
Yeah.
down, give me attention. And I think perhaps it was. I don't think it maybe she's meant to be playing someone who pretends they're fainting to get attention.
I think you've got a good point there, yeah. It's far too... She's not that bad an actress, and we'll talk about her later.
Yeah.
So it's not
So
overacting.
my feeling is that Phyllis is a character who wants attention, and that's borne out by a lot of the facts about her character that we
Yes,
hear.
she is a drama queen.
Yes.
all about her.
She also doesn't like other people having attention.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay.
We go to the museum. Janie and Ruth arrive, and Ruth waits for Janie to walk through to the murder scene and discover the body.
Yeah, see, I was confused here. I thought they were still at the house. Because Ruth's saying to Janie, let him sleep.
Yeah, it's because of the look. Yeah, and the look of the house, the museum, it looks like a house. I wasn't sure if they lived on the museum premise, but no.
So they're heading out somewhere, and there's a long lingering shot on Ruth, and then Janie comes out going, Aunt Ruth, and I've written,
Yeah. It's a weird...
Biting her fist.
Yeah, she is biting her fist. I like that. It's a weird scene. You see the pensiveness, the anticipation on Ruth as she knows what's about to happen.
Yeah, well, that makes more sense if they were at the museum, because I had no idea what she... I was like, is this her reaction to seeing an empty bed? I mean, this doesn't make any sense.
No, I like this.
Okay.
It was genuine. The fist biting, the shock of seeing...
Yeah, not knowing what to do, what to say, yeah. You get a comedy moment immediately after.
We do, which is...
Columbo drives in the back of a police car with his squeak car.
It's okay. It's not... We didn't overplay
And then
it.
you get another comedy line a moment later.
Which
when
is...
Columbo says, Sergeant Miller, I can't see. And Miller says, yes, sir, the light is off.
Did Miller remind you in any way of Wilson?
Yeah. Well, in fact, no, it wasn't Wilson. It was one of the others.
No, it's Wilson who's always wanted to be by the book.
No, but he looked like somebody else.
No, I meant in terms of his attitude.
Yeah, but he looked to me like, I can't even think who it was.
It's not like Dennis Duggan.
No.
Oh.
Older.
Kramer?
Earlier episode. No, not a well-known one. Somebody who done it once before. Anyway, he seemed familiar in style.
Miller provides his theory. So, Schaefer was robbing the place. His tyre was flat. He called his brother. He was caught by Edward. Both were shot.
Yeah.
They shot at the same time. Seems a little bit unlikely, don't you think? That you could, it's a bit like the boxing, two boxers. It's very, very unusual to see two boxers knock each other out at the same time. Normally, someone's quicker to the punch, quicker to the draw.
Have you seen Rocky 2?
I have. But that's what I'm saying. That was a movie from, 79 or something, or 81 or whatever. So...
That would be this time.
Just after, yeah.
Maybe that's where Rocky got the idea.
Could have been. So that's the theory provided by Miller.
Yeah, but Columbo's immediately collecting clues. First off, artefact in the pocket.
The medallion, yeah.
If he's stealing for himself, why has he separated one off from the rest of the stuff?
Yep, good clue.
Haircut shown by lots of little hairs on his clothes.
He was wearing...
New clothes.
Yeah, new clothes, rubbers on his shoes.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
I think this was a thing that you would wear before sneakers became ubiquitous.
Right.
And everyone wore it, and it was a sort of a fashion item.
If that's the case, then why was he saying it's a clue because it wasn't sneakers?
Because he's put these shoes on. So
yes, but what the police say, I think maybe Columbo says, is why did he not just wear sneakers?
Yeah.
But if you're saying this is what folk did instead of that, then that would be normal.
Not did instead of it. No, you would only be doing it for certain circumstances.
Okay.
Perhaps when you were. It wouldn't be. You wouldn't put these on to do sport in.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're walking across a hall, or where you weren't allowed to wear shoes, you might put these things on your feet to give you a little bit more grip for a while.
Okay. There were so many clues here. There was the new watch. He had a manicure.
Yes,
and
haircut, manicure, new expensive shirt.
Yeah, well, all these clothes were new.
Clothes, yeah.
Then what they thought was an insect bite, which Columbo immediately recognised was a vaccination.
Yeah, yes, it wasn't an insect bite.
Dressed to go on vacation, but no luggage, no cash, no passport, which had Columbo thinking.
Yeah, did you mention there the fact that he thought his watch was wrong, but it wasn't? So he looks at his watch and the date is wrong on the watch.
I didn't catch that at that moment. I saw it was a new watch, but I didn't spot the date.
Okay, but the date's not wrong. Because there's a little bit of comedy there as well. Where
Columbo's date's wrong.
Yeah, and he says, well, what do you expect from a $30 watch after thinking it was right in the first place? I like that scene. So Columbo immediately is able to work out that he was dressed for travel, for a vacation. Yeah. But the problem he's got is that there was no luggage, passport or cash on the body.
Yeah.
So he's got an issue here.
Yep.
And overall, as you say, we were sort of, it was a clue blast there, wasn't it? We got a lot of information.
Columbo did. Sometimes Columbo did, yep.
Yeah. But I thought they were okay. These clues were not too contrived.
No, they were fine.
The haircut and the manicure, perhaps.
The problem that I had with it is that Columbo's the only one that spotted it. Some of it was pretty obvious stuff.
Like what?
The hairs all over his shirt. The other policeman didn't seem to know why he would have little hairs all over the inside of his shirt.
True, but what I would say is that only Columbo would think that's important. Your average cop's just going to think, so he's had a haircut today, so what?
Maybe.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's why Columbo's the best.
Yeah.
Because he actually does his job.
Because you need to put all the clues together.
Yeah, okay. Ruth watches the cops drive off a little later, but Columbo's car's still there.
I thought that was a nice scene, a nice touch.
The way they panned over.
Yeah, they panned over. Everyone left apart from Columbo's car, and you see him in the sort of dark, in the shadows, thinking.
He does a lot of thinking in this episode.
Which is nice. I like to see him think rather than just jump to
Definitely.
answers and conclusions. He's we see him go through his mental process.
It's like the answer, he now has everything he needs to get the answer. It's just putting things in the right order.
Yeah.
He's chain smoking his cigars. He's there for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then he spots a painting.
A portrait of a younger person. Well, yeah, a woman.
Yeah, a woman. And he starts sneezing again. And Ruth mysteriously appears at his shoulder with a chamomile tea.
She does.
And reveals it's not an older person. It's in fact her when she was younger.
Yes, when she was happier.
He didn't recognise her looking happy.
No, and she reveals some family history.
Well, let's have a listen.
Is that your mother as a girl? She's got a nice face. It's a happy face.
No, my mother was dead when that was painted. That's a portrait of me, after I became engaged to Peter Brand. It is a happy face, isn't it?
Oh, I thought you were.
An old maid, yes? That term refers to a woman who has never been married, not necessarily to someone who has never been engaged.
Did something happen to him, or did you just decide that you didn't want to marry him?
I didn't decide that. My sister makes most of the family decisions. She did even then.
She just didn't like this fella, huh?
No, I don't think she did like him. I thought she liked him then, though. So did she. She married him. I'm so sorry, Lieutenant. I thought you knew. Everyone else does. She is Mrs. Peter Brand. It was in all the papers. They eloped.
Oh, then your niece, Janie,
Is the daughter that I might have had.
It all starts to get a bit confusing from here.
Yeah. Ambiguous, I would say. You have to...
Read between the lines.
Yeah. And you could quite easily read incorrectly between the lines or read the wrong lines.
I mean, the guess I had was Janie might be Ruth's daughter, but I don't think that's true.
I don't think so. I thought that myself, and I think there are people who, with regards to this episode, believe that is the case, and it's not disproven, but I think it's
I don't think it
likely.
fits with what we hear.
No. Columbo then admits to Ruth that he has been thinking about how Schaefer was dressed, the medallion, and the note that he had on him.
Yes, we find here that there was a note in Schaefer's pocket that said, turn past 12 twice at midnight, something like that.
And I think the assumption is that it's directions.
Yeah, that's not correct though.
It's not, we find out later.
Yeah.
He then proceeds to outline the correct theory as to what happened.
Yeah, well, to an extent, yeah, he knows there's a third party involved, the vaccination, Schaefer thinks he's leaving the country.
It was a setup, and he was
But
murdered.
there was a setup, and the third party is the one who turned the lights off.
Yes. But he needs to find the luggage and the passport. That's what he thinks is missing.
Yeah, but there isn't luggage and there's no passport.
No. Ruth suggests that perhaps Columbo's hypothesis is wrong, but Columbo says that it's a fact and that he was leaving the country.
Yeah, Ruth comes up with a slightly alternate scenario
Yes.
in relation to a hideaway where he was going to go to before he left because he couldn't stay out in public, and Columbo thinks it's possible but he's not convinced.
Yeah. The reason that he knows that it was intended that he left the country was because of the vaccination.
At least he believed he was leaving the country, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you know from the light that there was a third party there who killed them, or at least was there when they were dead, because the light was turned out in the way.
Yes. Now, Ruth, up to that point, had been very confident, had provided potential solutions and answers to Columbo's queries.
Yeah,
But
she's undermined here.
she realises that there's no explanation and she's made a mistake.
Yeah, it's an interesting episode actually because you get a lot of back and forth between Columbo and Ruth without being sure that he suspects her.
Yeah, I don't think he can ever be sure, and in fact, we know, when we consider the ending, that he can't prove anything.
No, but it's even just a level of suspicion. Normally you know by this point in the episode, he's got his man or his woman, and he is just finding the proof.
Yeah.
I don't think at this point of this episode Columbo knows who did it.
Yeah, perhaps not, yeah.
Because there's nothing pointing to her yet, there's no motive pointing to her. He's not found anything about financial difficulty, he's not found anything about the other issues that led her to do this.
Mm-hmm. Ruth was played by Joyce Van Patten.
A familiar name.
Mm-hmm. We've discussed her before, but another cop. She played the the nun in Negative Reaction who thought Columbo was a homeless person.
That's it.
But a couple of bits of additional trivia following on from the Commodore episode. So Joyce Van Patten was married to Dennis Duggan from 1973 to 1987. So she was married to Mac Blinsky. They must have parted in fairly decent terms because she starred in Grown Ups, the Adam Sandler movie a few years ago, in which he directed.
There you go, there must still be a connection there.
Next scene.
We heard a snippet of it at the start of the episode.
Yeah. So Columbo heads to a hair salon and he wants to talk to Daryl, one of the stylists.
It's not very clear why he's gone to this salon and asked for Daryl.
He, I suppose, wants to confirm that Schaefer had a haircut that day.
How did he know that's where Schaefer went for his haircut that day?
Maybe because of what he knows in terms of him being paid off for having money or about to leave the country, that he assumed that he would go to one of the more... Yeah, well, there we go. He was wearing expensive shoes, expensive clothes, therefore you probably go to a top salon as well. If you're
Celebrity stylist.
Yeah, so you go to...
Also, he was wearing the signature style of Daryl.
He was. That's nonsense, isn't it? But it's quite funny. So Columbo's trying to just confirm that he cut Schaefer's hair.
But Daryl doesn't have time to talk to the likes of Columbo.
Oh no. However, if Columbo wants to purchase a haircut and manicure, then he'll chat to him as all hairdressers do.
And Columbo, being ever the professional, not only sits for the haircut and the manicure, he also gets his colleague to pay for it.
Yeah, well, it's $25 and
he's only got $5 with him.
But Columbo, his hair looks ridiculous.
It's not been cut, it's just been combed.
It's been styled, but it looks... I don't know, there's something really weird and odd looking about it.
Fortunately, he only keeps it that way for one more scene.
Yeah, he goes to the jeweller's.
Yes.
And he's checking it out in the mirror.
And the jeweller recognises the style.
Yeah, it looks like a stupid wig.
It's ridiculous.
It is. It's funny, I do smile every time I watch that scene. The reason he is at the jeweller's is he wants to discuss the calendar watch.
Which are only sold by one jeweller?
Yeah.
Unless it's branded for that jeweller or something like that.
No, you don't usually. You wouldn't have a jeweller's brand on it. No, you'd have the manufacturer, not the jeweller.
Well, that's all I could think of. Why would you go to that
And
jeweller?
why? Here's the thing. I can't remember. Why would a security guard, a recently employed security guard with financial problems, have an expensive watch? That's one of the first.
He's bought it this day with his money.
Is that all? Is that what he did? Yeah.
He's gone out and bought all this. That's why it was important. What's in this scene is the jeweller explains that he was going to set it forward a day for Milton because it was a 30-day month.
Yeah,
and Milton refused because
yeah.
it was going to be the first. He was going to wait till the first to do it.
Yeah, I forgot that. You're right. So, yeah, that's the key
and
information.
That ties into the note that Columbo found on Schaefer before that said turn past 12 twice at midnight or whatever the words were.
Yeah.
This was how to get to the correct date. It wasn't directions at all.
Correct. Before we leave the scene, Columbo is quite chuffed with the compliment and the identification of Daryl's work by the jeweller.
But moments later, he's back at the museum and his hair's back to normal.
Yeah. Wonder what Mrs. Columbo would have thought of that. Would she have liked it?
It seems like she didn't get a chance to see it. I don't think he's been home in between times.
Yeah.
Maybe he sent her a Snapchat or something.
The thing is, which I don't understand, is that if you spent $25 on this,
yeah,
you get at least a day out of it, don't you? You let people see it, you let the wife see it.
He would have, especially when he's quite happy with it, he's admiring it.
Yeah.
It's
or maybe again he looked at himself in the mirror and thought, this is stupid. This is a ridiculous haircut I've got here, or hair style.
Or maybe there's no style that can hold Columbo's hair for more than 20 minutes.
Till he has to, rifle some.
That or they filmed it on a different day.
Could be.
There was actually, last year, an episode of Doctor Who, where you could clearly see that it had pickups because the guy cut his hair to half the length. So in half the scenes he's got this sticky uppy long hair and half the scenes he's got this flat haircut. And they don't explain it, they just jump in between them.
Do you think we'll keep this bit in?
It's relevant.
Okay. We might keep it in then, Ian. We'll see. You'll have to listen to the podcast to find out.
Yeah.
So we go from the jeweller's back to the museum. We see Ruth take it looks like a dish from a glass case. Very poor security. You can just lift this case up and take things out.
They fired the security guard.
Yeah, I mean, in general, there's no alarm. It's not even screwed down. You can just
They've
lift
probably
it.
got a budget for that sort of thing.
Yeah, true. But she takes a dish type thing. It's a buckle. It transpires just before Columbo, arrives from the shadows.
Yep, and they have a long chat about his technique, and she admires his technique, but she recognises it.
Lieutenant, you look in high spirits.
Oh, I am, Miss Litton, I am. It turns out we may be right after all. Schaefer told everybody that he was leaving for the islands the next day.
Is it part of your job to trip people up or to see if you can?
Trip people up.
Trip people up. We never thought that Mr. Schaefer was leaving the next day. You may recall, I thought exactly the opposite.
Gee, I forgot about that. I get confused sometimes, I mean, just trying to keep all the facts straight in my head.
Lieutenant, you must never underestimate me. Nor I you. I don't in the least mind your playing tricks. But you're going to have to be a little cleverer, aren't you? I knew yesterday that you were going to have to interrogate us, all of us. Because we are, all of us, of course, under suspicion. You have to be suspicious. It's part of your job.
It's quite an aggressive move.
Very.
For her to say to him not to underestimate her, it's almost like a confession.
Yeah,
Well, why would he not underestimate her if she had nothing to hide?
I agree. From there we head to Mrs. Brand's room.
Yeah, Columbo's talking to Phyllis. He's trying to be calm with her, but she's melodramatic again. But she drops the act when he tears her dress.
Yes. He stands on it. That was similar to Case of Immunity.
Yeah.
But we don't really find out too much in this
There's
scene.
nothing in that scene.
Not at all.
I suppose you find out that she can drop the act when she's annoyed.
Yeah. Talking about her act. She was played by Celeste Holm. She died in 2012, aged 95. So a
Good
decent,
run.
good age. The reason I agree with you in terms of her acting a diva as opposed to being a bad actress is that she was Oscar nominated 3 times in 1948, 1950 and 1951. So
It's a good run.
Very
Oscar
good run.
nominations there.
And she won in 1948 for Gentleman's Agreement, which also starred, interestingly, must have been a very young Dean Stockwell.
Okay.
We've seen him before in...
A couple of times. Troubled Waters and in The Most Crucial Game.
Yes. And also Sam Jaffe, who was the victim in Forgotten Lady, the
Yes,
doctor.
He was the doctor, yes.
And she also won a Golden Globe for that as well. So she's a very decorated actress. She was also in All About Eve, High Society, a TV
Cole
show,
Porter's High Society. It's a good one.
Promised Land, and interestingly, a TV movie called Murder by the Book.
But not connected.
No, I've actually watched this myself. I really enjoy it. It stars Robert Hayes and Fred Gwynne. Robert Hayes was the lead in Airplane.
Okay.
Fred Gwynne being Herman Munster and the judge from My Cousin Vinny.
Okay.
And it's about an author who is an author of a sort of Sam Diamond type, Raymond Chandler style Private Eye.
His partner decides they're not going to work together anymore.
Almost. He is under pressure from his publisher to write more stuff, and he can. It doesn't want to. He wants to write serious books, much like Murder by the Book. He wants to stop writing these books and write in serious works. And he has a bit of a mental breakdown, and his character that he creates comes to life. Only he can see him,
Yep.
and he helps him solve a crime in real life, and he sort of talks.
That's also similar to the plot in Publisher Perish.
Yes. Yeah. But it's on Netflix. I would check it out. It's not by no means a classic, but if you do like the sort of crime and the private eye genre, it's well worth a watch.
Okay.
Murder by the Book on Netflix. American Netflix, I think.
Okay. Which you have to go to America to watch.
Of course.
While Columbo's talking to Phyllis, it gives Ruth an opportunity to plant her buckle/dish in Janie's bedroom.
Janie, while she's talking to her, wonders why her mother has never remarried.
She does.
We don't get an answer to that.
Well, I think it's implied that her mother just likes being on a different arm every time she goes out and having her pick.
Yeah. Columbo arrives.
Well, Janie's quickly put a robe on knowing that Columbo's on his way. And then when he arrives, he wants to know where she was when the killings happened.
Her alibi. She provides this to an extent.
Well, it's similar to
Yes. Now you see him.
Great Santini.
Yeah. He says, she says, effectively, I was with a lover. I'm not giving up the name unless it gets to the point where I have to.
Yeah. I think Columbo already knows.
Yeah.
who
He
the
accepts
lover is.
that. He's a little bit sheepish and he leaves.
And the next thing I liked.
The kitchen.
Yeah.
Explain.
Columbo goes into the kitchen and the maid shrieks and drops what she was carrying and explains she was in the kitchen the whole time.
She eventually thinks she must be the maid did it.
Yes. He leaves and speaks to Ruth in the lounge. She says he's got everyone in the house worried that they're about to be arrested for murder.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice. The comedic touches I'm quite happy with in this episode. It was nice.
Columbo indicates now that he's discovered her secret. This is where I thought, I wonder if she's Jeannie's mum.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a suggestion here that I think that was the suggestion.
It's kind of, it's meant to hint at that without it being that.
But Ruth dismisses this line of questioning.
Yeah.
Columbo then says he has a problem.
Yes,
with the
everyone's
alibi.
everyone's alibis for the wrong time.
Why?
Because Schaefer was still alive at midnight.
How do we know that?
He followed the instructions to wind his watch forward to the correct date.
Yep. Ruth explains why Schaefer would have lied, and then she outlines her own plan. So again, she's trying to be very smart here.
Yeah, she substitutes the he
Yes.
for the role that she played, and talks about the missing artifacts and how Edward knew who took it. And Columbo suggests it was Janie, and Ruth rejects, even though that's what she wants Columbo to think.
Yes. Columbo then reveals that he knows about Janie and Tim, and says that Edward was covering for Janie. As you say, Ruth pretends to be disgusted at this and distraught about this accusation.
Yeah, she is playing her role here.
We're in the living room, but it's later now.
It's much later. Columbo's got a search warrant and come back.
We see Janie fanning her mother, who can't take this pressure.
She's very upset, apparently. Columbo's called out of the room by Miller.
Before that, did you catch the line where Mrs. Brandt says that she will have Columbus disbarred or fired?
She wants Lieutenant Columbus disbarred.
Yes, and he corrects her to fired, I think.
Yeah.
But it's Columbus, not Columbo. She calls him.
So this is where I've got my note. It's an amusing performance, and she's actually believable here,
Yeah.
I think. I know a lot for myself, she's hamming up, it's terrible. I think she's believable in this part as a woman who is so obsessed with having attention that she just behaves in an OTT way all the time.
I think you're right. I think that's a subtlety there, and I think a lot of people might not have or not see that
It's
initially.
similar to last week where William Shatner was playing the hammy actor and he was doing it in a way with insight, and folk have criticised that and say, William Shatner's a ham actor, but he's not in that scene, in that episode.
I think that's, he's playing the role of a William Shatner type. It's very meta, very self-referential, but yes, that's what he's meant
It's
to be.
done with insight, yes. And this is the same here.
Yeah, I agree.
In any event, he's pulled out my Miller, they found this dish in Janie's room, and he just says, book her.
Yep. Miller arrests Janie as Brandt faints again.
She faints again, Phyllis does, yeah.
We go to the museum office. Columbo's listening to the inventory, the audio inventory that has been produced by Edward.
At first I thought it was the guide tape to all the things, but it wasn't. It was Edward's inventory, and he's listened to it he spent 7 hours listening to it.
That would mess with your head, wouldn't it?
I think you would actually just start losing grasp of reality.
He does seem a bit delirious here.
He does.
And he's rambling a lot about Byzantium, this and all sorts of stuff.
I think it's like those things when you fall asleep, listen to these tapes that teach you a foreign language and you wake up shouting in Klingon or whatever.
Yeah, I think Miller arrives, but
he's interrupted.
All we're meant to gain from this scene is that Columbo is aware of the inventory.
And he's investigating it. And he knows there's something there.
Yeah.
It's like when in playback he was watching the video over and over. He knew there was something in it and he couldn't find it. And it's the same thing here.
Definitely. From there we go to the jail cell where Janie is being
Is this
held.
the first time we've seen someone in a cell?
Yes.
Just the note I have to, because I know we saw Riley Greenleaf in Interrogation after having been arrested. I don't think you saw him in the cell.
Nope, wasn't in a cell.
So I think this is the first time we've had a police cell in Columbo.
Yes. Good spot. So he brings Janie some food, lots of food and lots of cigarettes.
Raging. She's absolutely raging. She won't talk to him.
Yeah, quite rightly. She's not done anything wrong and she's now in jail.
Yeah, I don't even know that it's the fact she's not done anything wrong. I think she just is annoyed at Columbo generally.
He places the dish down beside her.
This is a crucial play here because she's been working at the museum. She could well have recognised that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. This is a bit chancy on Columbo's part. You know, she could have said, well, wait a second, I don't know what that is, I'm not in, but that's...
She could also recognise it and then treat it as an ashtray, knowing that that's what he's looking for.
Yeah. So I'm not too sure about that one. Not massively.
It's really one for himself rather than for the court here.
Yeah. But she does react to the briefcase that he brings the goods in.
Yes.
That was a briefcase used by Schaefer.
Yep, she borrows a bit of her mother's melodrama here. And says, oh yes, I've seen it 3 times. I saw it when I shot him and I saw it when I left the scene.
Yeah. Columbo then tells her that he thinks that she is Ruth's daughter, but Janie doesn't want to discuss it.
Well, he's got a bit more to discuss than that.
Yes, he says that he knows that she loves Ruth more than anyone else, more than her own mother.
Yeah.
And that she doesn't want to see her hurt. He then goes on to talk about how that he thinks that Ruth killed her father. We've got a clip.
You love your Aunt Ruth a lot, don't you? More than your mother. Maybe more than anybody. You wouldn't like to see her get hurt, would you? She must have been hurt plenty back then. Enough so that she got left without anything, right? Anything but the museum, that is.
What do you want?
You were only 7 when your father died. He died of a heart attack, didn't he? That's what the coroner's report said. That he'd had 2 heart attacks, he was under a doctor's care, and there wasn't an autopsy. Your Aunt Ruth said that your mother wouldn't hear of it. And the doctor probably didn't see any reason for an autopsy anyway.
How can you be so positive about all that?
When I saw your Aunt Ruth the other day, she began talking about your father and his death. Your Uncle Edward's death reminded her of it.
So, death always reminds you of death.
Right. And murder reminds you of murder. Even when you don't know it, you begin to think it.
Janie does not react well to this suggestion.
She doesn't. How does she react?
She chucks everything on the floor and storms the 3 feet across the cell to the other side.
I must admit that I'm slightly uncomfortable with Columbo's strategy and his tactic.
Agree.
With this, in this scene and in the finale, it's playing on people's. It's almost like blackmail.
It's cruel. The way that he handles it is cruel, and it's not professional.
No.
It's like him finding out who did this is more important than anything else. Doesn't matter who gets hurt.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the consequences are. As long as he can get his killer, that's the most important thing.
You see, the thing is, if he had believed that he could prove the killing of Edward the killing of the husband by Ruth back,
He's never going to be able to prove that now.
he knows he cannot prove that. So all he can do is dig up dirt to cause
Throw it
pain.
at the wall, yeah.
So I'd expect a cop to, if he thinks he can prove that, even if it's going to cause grief and pain, to do that anyway, because that's his job.
Yeah, but this is not one that you can...
He knows he can't.
It's just he believes this is the case.
See,
it's not one that
he's
can go
just
to court.
using this as a means of saying, if you do not... in fact, I don't know if that is admissible. Well, maybe... Okay, we're ahead of ourselves. I'm ahead of myself here. Let's go to the next scene.
Okay.
It's this final scene. We're in the Lytton home.
Yeah, Ruth talking to Phyllis and the doorbell goes...
Yep, it's Columbo and Janie.
Yes, he's releasing her.
She immediately, Janie that is, begs Ruth not to listen to what Columbo's going to say. But Ruth is as calm as always.
Oh yeah, she's even keeled throughout this episode, which I think is probably one of the clues that you're going to list later on.
Mm-hmm. He says that he doesn't think that Janie killed anyone or stole the dish.
He explains about the ashtray.
Yes. And then Janie tells Ruth that Columbo thinks that she killed her father because she hated him. And Janie is very defensive and stands up for all that Ruth has done for her and her family over the years. So Columbo can see she's, even if she believes it or doesn't believe it, she's emotionally committed to Ruth. That's, her mother doesn't give her the love, or she isn't the type of sort of role model or the type of Ruth is effectively the mother figure. And Columbo's playing in this love, this weakness perhaps, I suppose.
Yeah. Essentially, Ruth is going to confess to a double murder and probably face execution to protect her niece's feelings. Which in itself doesn't seem like a well thought out bargain.
Yeah. okay, before we get there, what happens is that Columbo says that I can prove that Janie didn't steal the buckle because of the audio inventory, which from last night,
It was still there then.
which was still there. So we know that she didn't steal this.
Yeah.
Which means,
He might be able to prove Ruth planted it if he knows that she was the only one who had access.
yep, and some of her motive may be the potential hatred of her husband and her sister because of things in the past.
Yep.
And as we discussed, Columbo doesn't think that he can prove any of that, and in fact he won't be able to prove any of that, but he's willing to muckrake in order, he's willing to bring it up in court, make it public. And as they are a family of socialites, of interest to the wider population, people would gossip, people would talk, it would ruin their reputation. So,
I suppose even just going on trial for murder might contribute to that as well, but yeah.
yeah, but I think a lot of these families, even going on trial for murder would not be as bad as...
Yeah, I think
They're
from Ruth's perspective, the bigger thing is if Janie even considers that this might be true.
I think she must. Whether or not it goes to court now, surely Columbo has planted the seed, he has made this obvious.
He admits he was lying.
But he doesn't admit... Yeah, okay, so that's the thing. He doesn't admit it convincingly. He's asked, and it's almost like he's saying, yeah, okay, I'll say that if you do this.
I think that gives Janie the chance to repair her bubble.
Yeah.
She can just not question it. If she doesn't choose to question it, she doesn't have to question it. She can believe what she wants to believe now.
There's an innocence and a childlike side to Janie, isn't there? She seems... Well, we've mentioned this before. She's only a few years younger than... We discussed this earlier today.
Yes, before we recorded. She's much closer in age, or a bit closer in age to Ruth than Ruth is to
Her
sister Phyllis.
Yeah.
And the numbers don't add up for the story that we've just been told. So obviously the actress is playing younger.
The actress looks to be in her 30s, but she has got them... She acts like a young teenage girl, that sort of, who has to be protected, who is...
She's obviously had a very unusual childhood, and
Yeah.
it's an unusual one. Her father has left her aunt for her mother and then died, and she's been left with both her aunt and her mother in one household. Anyway, Ruth and Columbo have a little exchange here, really tying things up. And we can
We can. This is where they come to an arrangement.
A strange arrangement.
Lieutenant, I don't know what you're talking about.
And you never will, Mrs. Brandt, unless this case goes to trial. And then it will all come out. What your brother said to you about something being missing. And what you said to me.
Janie? It wasn't true what he told you about my killing your father. Was it, Lieutenant? You lied about that, didn't you? Tell her it wasn't true. Tell her. It was all such a long time ago, it couldn't matter to anyone anymore. Only to Janie.
Yes, ma'am. It wasn't true. I lied about that.
It won't be necessary to use the tapes as evidence, Lieutenant.
Yes, ma'am.
Like I say, she is essentially submitting to execution to protect her niece's memory of her, or memory of her own childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a strange one, but in a nice finish and a sort of a harkening back to earlier in the episode, she leaves the room on a man's arm. Having stated earlier that there wasn't an arm for everybody, she finds one at last.
Yes.
Just before she's executed.
Nice touch. So overall, I like this episode.
Yeah, the note I've taken is that it was nothing spectacular, but it was enjoyable enough. Mid-tier.
As an episode, yes. However, I would say that I thought Joyce Van Patten could have been described as spectacular. It's a very, very good performance. Understated.
There were some good performances in the episode, and I think there was just one or two things in the overall picture that weren't quite there, but it was good.
Yeah.
Any trivia we've missed out?
Well, we'll do some production information.
That's always exciting.
28th of November 1976 at the 73-minute length. Robert Douglas was the director. He was born in England and died in 1999, aged 89. He was a director and actor. So as a director, his last piece of work was in Fame, but he also directed Quincy, Beretta, Cannon, Adam 12, Mission Impossible, So a lot of the TV shows that we were
High
aware
profile
of.
ones,
Yeah.
yeah.
As an actor, he was in Maverick and Ivanhoe. We've also met him before. He played the Doctor in Troubled Waters.
Right, okay, yes, in Sickbay, yes.
So that was the director of this episode.
There you go.
We've discussed the Peter S's who wrote this episode.
Yeah, that's a mystery, which we still want you to come back to us on, please.
2 little bits of trivia which you might find interesting. The Lytton home was the same home that was the Bruce Wayne mansion in the 1960s Batman.
Ah, I thought it looked familiar.
There we go.
Diddly-diddly-diddly.
And this is quite interesting. We mentioned Rocky already, and I was going to say the score as that episode finished sounded a little bit like the sort of opening bell. There's a touch of the Rocky soundtrack in that. But Peter S. Fisher envisaged this episode, the theme, the setup initially, as a modern reworking of Richard III,
Okay.
with Burgess Meredith playing the sort of patriarchal role. Now, Burgess Meredith,
Of course. Went on to be in Rocky as a long-running favourite character.
Mickey, but also he played the Penguin in the original Batman, or the 60s Batman.
In that house?
Yes.
Wow.
So there we go.
Remarkable.
Interesting.
It's always fun, these little things that kind of tie things together.
Everything's tied together. It's all one big universe with a bow
Circle of
around
life.
it. That's it.
Moves us all.
Will we head on to the episode review?
Let's do that, because we've got the season finale next week that we can look forward to.
Okay. Motive. So the prevention of... Well, firstly, on the face
It's
of
an
it...
emotional one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, in the face of it, it's to not lose the museum. But...
It's our life's purpose. It's an irrational emotional connection to the museum.
Yes. Clues. Quite a lot here, so I'll rattle through them. Tell me what I miss. First one is her not being unnerved and her general attitude towards Columbo.
Yep.
The medallion in the pocket, the clothes, the appearance, the needle mark, the watch date, etc. Things on his body. The fact the lights were off, the discovery of the family history, the buckle as an ashtray, the audio inventory.
Yeah, that sounds fine to me.
Gotcha. Didn't like it, as we've discussed.
It wasn't really a gotcha.
Wasn't a gotcha. It wasn't. That's not why I didn't like it. As I said there, I think it was unpleasant.
Yeah, it was difficult to watch. It was cruel towards someone who didn't maybe deserve that level of cruelty based on what we'd seen.
And I think the can of worms have been exposed and opened up here, and I think that Janie has been furthermore damaged.
Yeah, I mean, it was very Machiavellian as well.
Yes.
And it didn't sit right for me.
No, it was mean-spirited.
It was.
But there we have it.
Obviously, justice was done, so credit to him if that's your, level of ambition for an investigation, and well done.
Yeah. Next week. Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
I've heard good things, but
Big fans' favourite, this one.
an interesting one because obviously our killer next week died a few weeks ago in real life, so we've got a little bit of information there.
Yes. It is, of course, the Bye Bye Sky High IQ murder case. One of the most interesting episode titles, I think.
Yeah, it's original.
Very original.
Shows a bit of creativity. So that leads me to think happy thoughts.
I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Looking forward to it.
As usual, we'll finish by saying thank you very much to everyone who has taken the time to download and listen.
And reviews on iTunes, and if you haven't, please do.
A reminder of some of the sleuthing we're asking our listeners to partake in.
Peter S. Fisher, Lawrence Vale, and Peter S. Feebleman. Are they one and the same? Are they three in the same?
Yeah.
Are they three different people?
Let's
Are
dig
they
some
two people?
dirt.
Anything you can find out, put your minds together or work individually, doesn't matter.
Yep.
And submit your theories and postulations.
Show your workings.
We will see those Twitter, Facebook, ColumboPodcast.com. Get it to us somehow, and we will look over what you have to say, and hopefully there'll be plenty of interaction from other sleuths on that one as well.
Yeah, we look forward to discovering what you can discover.
And getting to the bottom of this one.
So that's us for now from this week, and we'll see you all next week.
Cheerio.
have been listening to the Columbo podcast from Heard Yet Media.